to another episode of The Man Space. Kunle and I are delighted week after week to identify and feature gentlemen from all over the world, from different walks of life, sharing their perspective and talking about what it means to be who they are and still hold space for themselves and others and build a supportive environment, a thriving community. Keeping in mind, men are not always raised to be in touch and be aware of their own emotions, how they're feeling, and how to manage it. Because society doesn't invest in boys at that stage when they're growing up. And it is something in our modern world grown men have to figure out for themselves, unless they were lucky enough to have women and men in their life to give them those tools. And we have this conversation in this space to create that safe place and space so that we continue to enhance those tools and support systems so that men have a place, a collaborative space, a supportive space to thrive and lift each other up in ways that professionally we don't get to do. Having said that, today's conversation is going to be exciting. You're going to love our guest, Thomas, TJ as I call him. TJ and I have known each other for a long time. I met him in the classroom when he was a firefighter. He went on to have a wonderful career in the fire department. And now he runs his own business, consulting for fire prevention and fire protection space. He's a newly minted author of a children's book. And he's a fellow board member of Equip Our Kids, a not-for-profit organization that engages in United States, across all the states, in schools for K through 12 to bring emotional intelligence and emotional intelligence-based leadership capabilities to children so that we build a better world for our future. Tom, welcome. Welcome to the Man Space.
Thanks for having me on, Cass.
As we get started, talk to us a little bit about what was it like being a firefighter and coming out of the ranks to now run your own business, and how being a firefighter helped you tap into some of those soft skills that are at the heart of emotional intelligence. While fire and police are both public safety, fire gives you a different experience than police. And I want you to be able to talk about that so that that gives us a start.
Yeah, so I mean, my career took kind of a drastic turn in May of 2021 when I sustained an injury at work that didn't allow me to go back. So was taking a step back from the fire department. Obviously, I had a lot of skill sets that I could use in the private sector for various things. And one of those is consulting on different projects. One of the projects I'm working on right now is we're bringing a product to market in the US that is a fire retardant, essentially like a paint for industrial applications and building materials. So working with different clients on an international basis is obviously something as a fireman you don't do often, but it's been a great learning experience. And it's really pushed me out of my shell and caused me to, grow a little bit. I've enjoyed it a lot. So I think firefighting versus police work, I think you have a little bit more opportunity to do things outside of the realm of what you do that are completely different than your day-to-day. So firefighting can kind of drive you in 1,000 different directions if you really wanted to. And you're right, I have known you for a very long time. I was thinking about that when you said it. I think my first class with you was in 2005. Yeah. So it's been a while.
Thank you. Go ahead,
Sounds
Kunle.
good. Yeah, that sounds good, Thomas. And I mean, what I really want to ask first will be, how were you able to integrate other parts of life generally into your work? I mean, there is this notion that people who do what you do, and then, the people in the military, police, we have this notion or this misconception that it's all about work for them. How do you integrate other things to your own personal life to create that work-life integration that had made you grown to who you are right in here sitting with us today?
So I think speaking to that is, kind of a bigger picture of what I did when I was with the fire department, which is largely community-based service. And, engaging with the community, I think, is a big deal. And like when I lost that opportunity with the fire department, I pivoted in a lot of ways and kind of reinvented myself. And I've just pushed myself into a lot of volunteer opportunities. Equip Our Kids is one of them, but I also do a lot of volunteer work for a couple of soup kettles in town and do some other work as well. But I feel like the more you take ownership of your community and engage in various volunteering aspects of it, the more you start to grow a greater understanding of society as a whole, and it just makes you a more well-rounded individual. So I've learned a lot about myself doing this, but I've learned more about like my community as a whole and how to better serve them. So
Beautiful. And you do that so well, Tom. What moved you and ignited your passion to write a children's book?
so
One. And two, what is the book about?
So while I was off on my injury, my sister had come to me and she said, and I think this is out of frustration, essentially, was that she said, you seem like you have a lot of time. You've been calling me every day. She's like, I don't have time to field these calls all the time. And it was true. I was sitting at home. I couldn't really work. I didn't know what to do with myself. But she's like, you should write your nephews a children's book. And at that time, I'd been doing a lot of writing already. And I laughed at her and I said, I'm not a children's author. I don't really write that kind of thing. And she's like, I know you, you're smart, you'll figure it out. And I'm like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing. And it was like the next day or that day at like 3 a.m, I woke up at like 2:45, 3 a.m, got up and came downstairs. I wrote the entire book on 36 Post-it notes in my dining room. My wife came down the next morning and asked what this was. And I said, this is the children's book my sister asked me to write. Now I got to draw the illustrations for it. And she's like, okay. And then I drew like really rough illustrations. And a friend of mine's, his wife is an artist. And I said, hey, would you be interested in drawing the illustrations for my children's book? And she said, absolutely. I got some rough drawings about like conceptually what I want them to be about, or in general, like what I'm expecting it to look like. And she's like, okay. So I gave her the book of everything that I had done. And a year and a half later, she gave me back all of my illustrations for like the 26 pages of the book. And then the cover and everything else, and all of it is getting published right now. It'll be done this week. So it's been a fun project, but definitely something that when I gave my sister one of the final drafts of the book, her comment to me was, I never expected you to do this. And I said, do what? She's like, give me a book that I can't read to my kids. And I go, why can't you read it? And she's like, because I can't get through it without crying. And the book is largely about life lessons that my backyard chickens can teach my nephews. Just simple things that just watching my chickens, I'm like, I wish my nephews would do that. They go to bed every night on time and they look out for each other, and just basic stuff, principles that my backyard chickens could teach my nephews. So the whole book is about that, but it's really entertaining.
Oh, that sounds so powerful, Tom, and so inspirational. I want you to just give us the title of the book so everyone who is listening will everyone who is watching will listen to that. And then beyond that, I also want you to speak to the impact getting our children trained young. What impact does it hold in the society, in building the society in general? We all love children, and we know that, yes, we call them future leaders, but the leadership starts today when we begin to train them in the right way to do. And you channeling your energy and channeling your intellect towards that, writing a book for children, talk to us on the impact it could create in the society at large if more people could do something similar.
I think you culturally could address more issues on a more nuanced level if people took some time to think about things through the eyes of a child, which was part of writing this book, which was so difficult for me, is I actually had to turn around and kind of put their glasses on and try to look at the world in a different perspective. And I never thought I would find so much joy in writing a book like this, but it was a lot of fun. And it challenges your own perspective, because I think as an adult, not to be all quoting of Peter Pan, but there's a point in which you just kind of step off and do a different thing, and like putting yourself back in that realm of it being a child and not thinking about everything so seriously is difficult. It's not easy to do, but when you do it, and you can put yourself there, it lends a lot of creativity, I think, to the process. The name of the book, though, is Chicken for a Day, and you can find it at chickenforaday.com. So
That's fantastic. Somebody might think that it is eating chicken for a day, but it's about being the chicken for a day.
being the chicken for a day, yes.
Yes. So I love the play on words. I love the lightheartedness at the same time, a deeper meaning that can be hidden in that itself. So I cannot wait to get the hands on the book. I know when the book comes out, we will promote it across our community, and it'll be a fun thing to do for us as the Man Space community. So please keep us in mind and keep us posted when your book launch comes.
Yeah, pre-sale is going on right now, and like I said, the book will be here in the next week, and yeah, it's going to be great. So
Beautiful.
I really want to just get a little bit further in asking, these days most people will tend to put the responsibility of childcare to, in quote, now to the mothers, and there is this question that people ask: where are the fathers? And this is the man space. We are trying as much as possible to see how we build our men, by giving them the necessary responsibility. I want you to speak to that in one sense, men taking responsibility of their kids, not leaving it to one part alone, because, it takes a village to raise a child, as we say.
I would agree with that entirely. And I spent 5 years volunteering as a court advocate for children in abused and neglected homes. And there was a common thread in a lot of the situations we found ourselves. And a lot of these kids did not have fathers that were active in their life. And it wasn't a fault to the mothers that necessarily they were in the situation they were in. I think there's a heavy burden placed on women to provide that care. And I think the biggest message I would give to any man is that don't forget where you came from and be there for your kids. Instead of if your father wasn't there for you, instead of learning from that, take away that, maybe I should be there for my kids and, make the world better is the only way they'll look at things. So
that is such a valuable message. And I'm glad that you're coming at it not only from a male perspective, but from a larger social responsibility perspective, right? They don't have to be our children for us to step in and be there for them, men and women, because those of us who don't have kids still have responsibility towards the children in our society. So I love how you actually show up in the world, and I love how your message is coming across here. If you had a message for men out there, men who are executives, men who are teachers, men who are firefighters, plumbers, electricians, all of them, what is the one way, regardless of their profession, regardless of their station in life, men can get involved and be in lives of young people in their community so that they too can stay in touch with that inner child of theirs? Because that's part of the trick, right? When you're in touch with your inner child, you do see the world differently, the same way you had to get there to write your book.
yeah, absolutely. I think the thing I would challenge them is to just try to engage in a relationship with a child in some kind of way. And it doesn't have to be tremendous, outgoing, or overly meaningful. And it doesn't have to be a kid. If, like, I know for a fact with me, I have an age demographic that I connect with really, really well. And it's children probably after the age of 5. I struggle with kids that are younger, but I'm getting way better at that because getting into this book and doing that was really a big part of it. But finding like the age groups you can connect with and connecting with them on a meaningful level, I think is a big thing. If you ask me, like, one of the things I missed the most about the fire department was actually like teaching the grade school kids about fire safety. It was very meaningful. They were always really engaged and they enjoyed the program. So like I miss that greatly. But the biggest thing I would say is that if you aren't active in any children's lives, just make an effort. And if 90% of the time it's just showing up and it happens from there. Like meaningful and like honest engagement will be completely accepted by children most often.
That was that was aptly put, Tom, and it's been wonderful. And I am so sure there is someone out there who will be asking.
So people are going to be asking how to get a hold of you, Tom.
Uh,
So let's share with us how people can get a hold of you, how people can pre-order the book, stay in touch with you.
Yeah, chickenforaday.com. You can pre-order the book. You'll also see like my bios in there, but you can reach me at my email, which is going to be corefsconsulting@gmail.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn, either place, under TJ Aagesen, Aagesen on LinkedIn. So,
okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tom. As we bring this to a close, we lost Kunle for a signal, I guess, internet connection, but he will join back. But in the meantime, if you had a closing thought for the man space, for men and women who are raising boys, fathers who are raising sons, what would be that message?
personal growth can greatly be accelerated if you put yourself in the mind of a child and get your adult hat off just for a moment and think about life in a different perspective. It really has pushed me in a lot of different ways that I didn't expect it to, and it's been really fun and entertaining. So I would challenge anybody that feels like they're above that to really embrace it and try to jump in on it. So that would be it.
That is such a wise message. What about people who misjudge you when you have the ability to be childlike? They chalk you up to being immature and not adult enough. How do you deal with that?
I would say that every environment has its own requirement, but I would say that I will fit whatever environment I need to at the time. I don't really worry about that too often, to be honest. But yeah, I think there's a time and a place for everything. So obviously, if you're in a board meeting, probably not the place to put your child hat on. But if you're putting together a presentation for your board meeting and you want to lighten the mood a little, putting your child hat on might be a good place for that. Just saying, like it lends itself to a lot of creativity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your wisdom. We appreciate the knowing that Chicken for a Day is coming out and we can all be a part of that. And we all are going to get the opportunity to read it and experience it and share it with children in our lives. What age group is it going to be appropriate for?
It's more of a bedtime story, but I would say it's probably like 4 to 7. So
okay. That's an interesting age.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And younger too. I mean, it's more of a story that's read to the children, but I'd say an early reader could easily read the book as well.
That's good to know. And sometimes adults should read it and get a perspective through the mind's eye of a child.
Absolutely. And I have 2 other books I may write. We'll see what happens, but it's been a fun process so far.
Well, we are here. Keep us posted and come back. And
Thanks.
as we bring this to a close, I do want Kunle to have the last word, but to our audience out there, please remember, we can all learn from nature around us, from the chickens, from the trees, from water flowing. Every element of Mother Nature is teaching us something. There is no better teacher than Mother Nature. So keep your eyes open, keep your heart open. And now I would love for you to receive Kunle's closing comments as we go off the air in the man space.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cass. It's been a great time with Tom right in here on the man space. And just like we do in every single episode, Dr. Cass and I come up with great people for the building of the society to make, the world that we all love to see, whereby our men have that right inclination about who they are and then what they need to do, taking personal responsibility and also disabusing the mindset of the people on a whole gone about our men for donkey years. And that is what this particular show is all about. And it is a great time that we are having this time around. And that's how it's going to be time and time again. So you better join us as we continue to build our society, build our world together collectively and collaboratively. So we see you one more time. Thank you so much for joining us, and keep being the best version of yourself every time.